Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use a dictionary to write sentences using the perfect tense. Remember, in your exam, you'll be allowed the same dictionary, so it'll be very handy for you to know the exact pages that you need. Before we start, you have to remember how to use the perfect tense. The perfect tense is the tense that you use when you are talking about an action in the past that's complete. For instance, last summer, last year, last weekend, I went to France. The action is done and complete. In the directed writing for hire, you often have to talk about something that you've done. So you went somewhere, like say, I visited museum. So j'ai visité un musée. And this is when you use the perfect tense. You do not use the perfect tense when you are describing something that happened on a regular basis. For instance, last summer I was in France and every day I went to buy something at the baker. So if you're using that every day, you're using another tense, which is the imperfect tense, and that's for another video. You also do not use the perfect tense when you are using descriptions. For instance, the scenario is you are at a party and you want to describe how many people there were, you want to describe how the people were with you, or you want to describe the music, how the cake was. In this case, you do not use the perfect tense. If you wanted to say the cake was delicious, well, you're not using the perfect tense here, you're using the imperfect tense, and that's for another video. So let's dive in. We're going to look into the English section to find your verb, the verb that you want to use in French. Okay, so that's what you do. So for instance, here to drink, you've got VT, verb transitive, and it tells you boire. So the first thing I do is go to page 28. 28 is all the verbs that use the auxiliary être. Remember that when you have to use the perfect tense, you have two parts, the auxiliary and the past participle. So all those verbs here are using être. They're also known as Van der Tramp's verb. And what it's important to check this page because those verbs use être, so je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes. And also you have to watch out the ending. Here you have some examples. So nous sommes restés. You have extra E if there were a group of girls that stayed, we stayed, and you have an extra S because it's plural. So with those verbs, you have to add an extra E if you're talking about a girl. So for instance here, she went somewhere, elle est allée, you have an extra E at the end, and you have to add extra S's if it's more than one person. So as soon as you're talking about we, you, more than one person, they, then you have to add the extra S. So that's more complicated. However, in this case, it's not on that page. So if it's not on page 28, I'm just going to go to the next page. The next page is going to, from page, I think it's 76 onward. From 76 onward, you have irregular verbs alphabetically. So if it's there, like in this case, you are in luck. Here it tells you, you have to watch out the auxiliary. It tells you that it's avoir, which means you have to use j'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, il ou elle, on, ont. And it tells you to use the past participle, the second part of your perfect tense. It's just bu, bu. So if you wanted to say, I went to a party and I drank orange juice, that's the one you use. You say j'ai bu. That's it. If you're talking about your pen pal and it happens to be that she's a girl, so you would say elle a bu. If you don't know the right part of avoir that you use, so if you forgot how to say I have, j'ai, you just go to have here in the blue pages. It's actually there. To have and to be are there. So être and avoir are here. J'ai, tu as. So you could say nous avons and then just check back. This was the perfect scenario. You've checked page 28. It's not on page 28. You've checked the verbs in alphabetical order and it's there and it actually tells you what to use, auxiliary and past participle. That's amazing. Now I'm going to show you another scenario. So here's another example. I want to use the verb to buy in the perfect tense. The scenario is you went to a party and you bought something like a birthday present for somebody. So here I'm checking in the English part in the white section of the dictionary. So the English part, buy, and it tells me VT, so verb transitive, acheter. Okay, so the first thing is I'm just going to go back to page 28 straight away. So page 28, I'll check everything. It's not there. I'm going to go into the blue pages from page 76 onwards, and I'm going to flick the pages, and it's not going to be here. You see it starts from acquérir, to acquire, to aller, to go, so acheter is not there. So that only means that it's a regular verb, and that's the good news, because the good news is regular verbs just use avoir in the present tense for the first part. So I'm just going to go and find avoir. So you say j'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons. And then they follow the same pattern that you must have learned in class. So if it's a ER verb, you take off the R, put E accent. So like j'ai acheté. If it's a IR verb, you take off the IR at the end and you put an I, like j'ai fini. And if it's a RE verb, you take off the RE and you put a U, j'ai entendu. Before we finish here, we have to talk about reflexive verbs, because you could find in the white pages the verb that you're looking for has se before, so se doucher, for instance. And what you have to do here with the reflexive verbs is to use être as a auxiliary first, and you have to put the reflexive pronoun before. So remember, je me, you put me before the auxiliary, suis, and then you have the past participle, so je me suis douché. Put the E accent. Because it's using être, you have to put the extra E. So if I were a girl, je me suis douché, add an extra E. If I talk about a girl here, I would say elle, I put S apostrophe, s'est douché. So the reflexive pronoun is je, me, tu, te, il or elle, se, si, should be right here. Nous, you repeat nous again, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils se sont, and remember the second part of the verb, the past participle, and adding extra E or extra S when it needs to be added. So nous sommes douchés, E accent S for a group of boys, E accent ES for a group of girls. Please remember, you only do that if the verb that you're looking for in the English section, and when it gives you the French, you got SE. You don't start adding nous sommes, something for every single verb. I see that too often, and this is a big mistake. So just use the je, me, suis, tu, t'es, et nous sommes only when the verb that you're finding has se, like se doucher, se maquiller, se lever, etc. All the other verbs, you just follow the steps that we've just seen, and that should be you. Hopefully this has been useful to you. Just let me know, start writing some sentences, and just be independent with your French.